Welcome to Genuine Fake Boxcast. Today we're going to look at we're going to go through the weekend's events, the Allen and Hrgovic fight, and the card there, and the Keyshawn Davis and Nahir Albright fight. And then once we've done that, we'll look at the upcoming weekend's boxing with at the Pyramids of Giza between Oleksandr Usyk and Rico Verhoeven. And then the undercard of that fight has got quite a lot of good fights on. So stick around for that. And then, yeah, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat and we will do our best um, to answer your questions and to reply. And yeah, let us know how we're doing and comment and we will start. So, the first fight in Doncaster was between um, Dave Allen and Filip Hrgovic, a heavyweight contest. So it was pretty much one-way traffic. Hrgovic basically did what Hrgovic should do. There's obviously a golf in class where Hrgovic is a world class, top 10, top five. I think he's ranked top five at the moment, heavyweight in the world. And Dave Allen's somewhere around about 45, 50. So you could see that. But I mean, Dave Allen gives it a go, but Hrgovic just broke him down from first round onwards. It was basically, all one-way traffic. Um, and that was the thing. How do I get chat up in here? Um, so yeah, it was a good contest. Well, it wasn't really a good contest. It was a good fight to see Hrgovic. But I think the exciting part of it was that there was talk afterwards of Hrgovic versus Atoma. So yeah, let us know the thoughts on that fight. From the point of view of Hrgovic, from the point of view of Toma. Um, Also, what you think Dave Allen should do um, in terms of where he should be boxing. Um, yeah, so just moving the chat around. So live on there. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on that. Any comments on the Alan Hrgovic fight? The the surprise fight on the Doherty and Hatim fight was quite good. I think both unbeaten fighters. Doherty um, took that one as pretty much one-way traffic. Hatim tried and was game, but Doherty, was just a better fighter, busier fighter. His work rate was just a bit too much for a team. Um, I think the surprise one was Gomez Jr. versus McGregor. Um, Gomez Jr. just came out like a machine, just was ridiculously output, and McGregor just couldn't keep up with it. So he took him out in 6 rounds. Doherty was on unanimous decision, pretty much, one-way traffic. Um, and then Fail versus Sutherland was a point win for Fail. Um, Pretty much unanimous again on that one. So yeah, let us know if you've got any questions or thoughts about that one. Um, and we'll do our best to answer or interact with you on those. Um, the other fight of the weekend was Keyshawn Davis and Nahir Albright. A bit of history in this one. Um, Keyshawn and Albright fought before, I think at 135. So super lightweight. And the fight was changed to Keyshawn won, but they changed it to a no contest because I think there was some substance issues on Keyshawn's part. So there's a little bit of sort of afters from that part. Okay, I think we had a question on. So, and then Albright fought Kelvin Davis, Keyshawn's brother, I think older brother, in quite a close fight, but Albright got the decision. And I think there was some like they had took some issue with that the result on the Davis side, and then I think Keyshawn, and then there was a little bit afters where they caused a little bit of trouble outside the changing room or the on that fight. Um, so there's a little bit of history and a little bit of like tenseness on that part, although Keyshawn was trying to play it down. I think Albright and that played a little bit on it before the fight. The And on this card there was a Brian Norman Jr. On the undercard against Wagner. So, the reason I mentioned both of those because both Brian Norman Jr. and Keyshawn Davis had some issue with the weight. Second time for Keyshawn, his last time he's fighting at home. Um, he was in he was also overweight by 4 pounds, so the fight had to be cancelled. This time it was a little bit less, and obviously he's fighting at a heavier weight. But I think he was still about point 0.4, point 0.2 in the weigh-ins, and then they had the 2 hours to recover. I think then they did the like fully nude weigh-in, and it was about point 0.1, which obviously isn't a huge amount, although it can be if it's a rough weight cut. And Brian Norman Jr. I think was point 0.4 and then down to point 0.2. But both of them fortunately made weight, so we've got something to talk about and watch. Um, so Keyshawn's fight um, basically was one-way traffic all the way through. He started well the first 2 rounds. He's I'm not even sure Albright managed to get a punch off or get land. Um, the In that it was looked like it was all just going to be all one-way traffic from Keyshawn. Um, you can see that he's leveled up. I mean, Albright is a good fighter, but you can see that Keyshawn has leveled up and he's got better and better. Um, Third, fourth rounds, he got a little bit more. Albright's got it started to get a little bit more into it, but I think there was still Keyshawn Davis rounds. There's a little bit less happening. I think the first couple of rounds, Keyshawn was just having it all his own way. Fifth round was interesting. Albright caught him with a right hand and a couple of body shots as well. I'm not sure whether it's enough to give him the round, although some people give that round to Nahir Albright. Um, and then it got a bit more interesting as Albright, had a little bit of success, but Keyshawn was still dictating the rounds. He was just, picking them off. Even though Albright seems to be the I'm not sure he's supposed to be taller, but he looked taller and longer arm, longer reach. Um, but yeah, it was still really Keyshawn's round till about the seventh, where Keyshawn basically threw him to the ground. So that one, he got 2 points deducted for throwing him to the ground. Um, yeah, let us know whether you think that's fair. Should have been 1 point. Should have been any points. Should it be 2 points? I think yeah, it was risky, but I think it should probably only been a point. But the judge made the call. I think they were fairly comfortable. Like Keyshawn was the head. It didn't really affect it. It gave a little bit of momentum to Albright, and that's probably the only round I've given him because. But even then, it was a 9-8, not a 10-8 with a 2 point deduction because I think Keyshawn still won the round. And then all the rounds after that were just Keyshawn's. There's a little bit of success for Albright, but pretty much one-way traffic. So I had every round apart from the seventh because of the 2 point deduction to Keyshawn Davis. And the fifth is the only other round you could give the other way because it's the best round that Albright had. Um, so um, yeah, was basically the fight. A good performance. Not the quite the statement Keyshawn wanted to make because I think he wanted to knock him out. But Albright's never. I don't even think he's been knocked down. So forget being knocked out. And you got to give him credit. He's tough and carried on going, and he's dangerous. He managed to pull out punches even near the end. But yeah, Keyshawn Davis is a level above, and I think it's now. I think he's going to be looking at world title shots from here. and good performance from Albright, I think, but yeah, he stayed in the Keyshawn Davis a different level. Um, I think be a few levels above. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. I think he still needs to get a little bit more professional because the weight cut, that's unprofessional. And if it's once one off, that's different. But it seems to be a few times now, even though he's up not higher up weight. Although it is talk of them going to 147 rather than just 140. So um, that would be, maybe that's the thing he needs to look at. Although that's like we've said before, these are stacked divisions. So 147, you've got Haney, Brian Norman Jr., who we're going to speak about, um, Ryan Garcia, Rolly Romero, Stanionis. There's quite a lot. Jack Catterall, who's fighting next week. Um, there's quite a lot of people in that division. And then 147, you've got, 140, you've got, quite a stacked division as well with Shakur the King, but you've got Dalton Smith, Richardson Hitchens, Keyshawn, Tiafimo, Puello, um, Gary Antoine Russell, Sander Martin, Subriel Matias, Adam Azim, and O'Leary. So you've got quite a lot, as we've said before, in the 140. So there's a lot of big fights there. So it'll be interesting to see what fight he does look at next. Um, but yeah, let us know what you think of his performance. What do you think of the weight cut issues? Um, let's see. Thank you for the question, Ryan. Yeah, we'll be getting to that. We're going to do the Usyk event in just after we finish with this. So just let us round up the weekend's action, and then we'll get to the Usyk, Verhoeven, Jack Catterall, Richard Torres Jr. Yeah, there's some really good fights next week. It's a whole really good card um, in a really iconic place. So yeah, we're going to get onto that one. Um, let's just do the yeah. So let us know any thoughts on Keyshawn and Nahir Albright. Um, and then the other fight on the card was Brian Norman Jr. getting getting back um, um, into the ring against Josh Wagner. Um, I mean, most people had this one way. The sort of Josh Wagner was, sort of fairly competent, and he was taller and a longer reached fighter. So I think that was his chance, but it was sort of one way thing. Um, let me just see what we said on the fight. Well, actually, I'll go back. I missed this out. So I think for Alan Hrgovic, I think we both had Hrgovic winning, which is pretty straightforward in our predictions. So yeah, and I think we both had Keyshawn because it's going to be a long fight. I think points, but Keyshawn fight and Brian Norman Jr. was basically second round KO, so not really much in it. Brian Norman was really hyped up before. I think it was the Devin Haney fight is the only one that where he's you know um, come undone. But I think that was a really good performance from Devin Haney. So let me load up his thing. It's only the only Brian Norman Jr. loss. So I think he was getting back on to winning ways, and yeah, emphatic victory. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on Brian Norman Jr. and Josh Wagner, and um, and we shall move on. Okay, to your question. Yeah, let's get to Usyk versus. So this is taking place next week. Let me just load it up. So Oleksandr Usyk versus Rico Verhoeven. taking place on the 23rd of May, 2026, at the Pyramids of Giza in Egypt. 12-round heavyweight contest. I think it's only there's some issue with the belts because obviously Verhoeven is not, a boxer. He's a kickboxer. So I think it's only the um, WBA or the WBC belt online. We will check and put that on. But let me do a tail of the tape. So Oleksandr Usyk is the unified heavyweight champion. Well, undisputed, unified champion. So he has 24 wins, 0 losses, 0 draws, 24 fights in total, 15 wins by KO. He's age 39. Um, he is 6'3" tall, 191 centimeters, and he's got a 78-inch reach, 198 centimeters. This is heavyweight, so Usyk's normally around about 220, 230 pounds, and he fights out of a southpaw stance. Now, new one, Rico Verhoeven, has a record of 1 win, 0 losses, 0 draws, 1 fight in total, 1 KO. He's age 37. He's 6'5", 196 centimeters, and he's 78, nearly 79 inches. Reach 200 centimeters. I think he's a little bit heavier, so we'll check his weight. I think he's a bit more like 240, 250 pounds. And he fights out of an orthodox stance. So Rico Verhoeven is the equivalent of Usyk in the kickboxing ranks. So I think he hasn't been beaten for something like 14 or 15 years in kickboxing. So that's the reason for the crossover. So I think it's both guys challenging themselves with a fight, although there is some controversy over this, whether it should be taking place or not. From my point of view, I think Usyk has earned the right to pick an opponent and have a fight like this. Um, After having beaten Fury twice, beaten Joshua twice, and beaten Dubois twice. And Dubois is like the second-ranked heavyweight in the world at the moment because he's the other belt holder after beating Fabio Wardley. So, and realistically, the Usyk Dubois fights were really one-way fights. He schooled him in the first fight in Poland, um, and the second one he destroyed him, knocked him out in 5 rounds. We were looking to watch live, and it's just one way. Set him up, warmed him up, and then Ivan the Terrible took him out. Um, Not really much more to say on that. So yeah, I think he's earned the fight. Interesting fight. Um, but I mean, you would expect Oleksandr Usyk to come out on top. So, yeah. So let us know your thoughts and questions about this. So what do you think will happen? Do you think it's a fight that should be taking place? Do you think, what chances do you give Rico Verhoeven? So any Verhoeven fans, what do you think? And obviously, Alexander Usyk fans, let us know. And any heavyweight or boxing fans in general, let us know your questions on this, and we will interact. So, what do we think is going to happen? Usyk is just too good. So the only way I can see Usyk getting beat is getting caught by a lucky punch, which is, can happen in any fight. And that's about it. I don't, whilst Verhoeven is taller and longer, has it's only reach is only a little bit bigger, but he's taller and obviously heavier. The I'll see if I can find his weight while we're looking. Um, Whilst he's taller and heavier, Usyk's fought people like this. He fought Fury, who's 6'9". He's even taller and even heavier. Um, so it's hard to see, what he's going to bring that's not already been seen by Usyk in terms of that. I mean, he will throw punches at weird angles and, be a bit different because he's not completely a boxer, although he has been doing boxing training for something like 14, 15 years with Peter Fury, Tyson Fury's father. So for his kickboxing fights. So his last fight, he was about first boxing fight, he was about 260, 69 pounds. So 270 pounds. So yeah, he's a little bit heavier than Usyk, although Usyk looks like he's, trained up a little bit, but on a bit of weight. His last fight against Daniel Dubois, Usyk was 227, or nearly 228 pounds. I suspect he's going to be around there or a little bit more. Um, I think his speed and precision and just the work rate and feints will just be too much. So I suspect they're going to let it run. I don't think he's going to take him out early. I think he's going to get to about 4 or 5 rounds, see, you download all of Verhoeven's movements and, mentally wear him down. And then 4, 5, 6, somewhere around there, I think, a knockout's possible if he puts his, the foot down or if he lets it run till the end. Um, because that's what Usyk does to all. It's what if you've watched the interview with Tony Bellew, that's what he said. Bellew was doing okay, but it just Usyk wore him down. And the mental pressure, as much as the physical pressure, you know, it just wears them down. And then you get openings, and Usyk can do what Usyk can do. So I suspect there'll be something like that. I mean, there may be a little bit of the exhibition mode about it, where he does, he'll let it go for the 12 rounds. And I don't know how tough Verhoeven's chin is. So if you've got any Verhoeven fans, let us know. Do you think he'll be able to take the punches from, well, everybody says a small heavyweight, but a heavyweight boxer? Even the terrible punch that took out Dubois? Um, or will it be more like the Joshua type fights where they'll just wear him down and just get him to the end? Um, or the Tyson Fury fights? So, yeah, let us know on that what you would want to know. So I think, yeah, Usyk wins. I'll pick around. Well, we get odds first and then we'll do. So the odds are 1 to 20 minus 2,000 for Usyk to win the fight, and 8 to 1 plus 800, which actually is closer than I thought for Rico Verhoeven to get the upset. And in terms of predictions, it's basically 87% near enough for Usyk to win, 67% by KO, 20% by decision, and then there's 13 percent for Verhoeven. So 10% by KO and 3% by decision. Yeah, I think a decision win would be for Verhoeven would be amazing. Um, Unlikely KO is probably his best chance. Um, you would expect Usyk to wear him down and then take care of business somewhere around about the halfway point of the fight or a bit after, um, depending on how tough Verhoeven is, how many punches he can take. Um, So did we do a poll on this? Let me just check. Let's see if you've done a poll up on it. I don't think we have, but let's see. So well, we've put a post up, a poll up about this. So yeah, let us know your thoughts in that, and let us know your thoughts in here in the chat and the comments what you think will happen. Um, any Verhoeven fans, let us know what your thoughts, and Usyk fans. What do you think of this fight? Do you think it should be a fight that takes place? Do you think it should? Um, what are the bodies, the fights, the belts on the line? Um, and I think some of them have taken him out. I think the WBA have said, um, WBA, WBC. Let's see, Usyk, Verhoeven, belts online. Yeah, I think the WBA have given him the permission, but I don't think Verhoeven becomes the champion because he's not ranked. So they're gonna have to look at what happens if he wins. I think the WBC have given the blessing to run forward, but it's not on the line. Um, and IBF, I don't know. Well, there seems to be some um, um, like different types of information of what belts. So if you do know what belts are on the line, let us know. Um, but it's saying here the WBC, the Ring, the WBA, and the IBF. So we shall see anyway. But it obviously depends on if Verhoeven wins. I think if Usyk wins, as everybody expects, it's just carry on, and then he'll have to defend against one of his um, mandatories, of which I think the WBC mandatory Kabayel is the one that's favourite. So yeah, let us know what you think of that fight, whether you'd want to see that one. Um, so I think it's Oma, who's one of the mandatories on the other, is lining up for a fight against um, um, Philip Hrgovic, the winner of the fight before. So yeah, I think Kabayel is the first in line, and then the winner of them could be the next um, of the mandatories. But we'll see, because you never know in these things what's going to happen. But I think Kabayel is the one who they're saying is the next after this fight. As it should, if it goes to script where Usyk wins. So yeah, I was going to give you my prediction. My prediction is Usyk win by KO in seventh round. So yeah, let us know your predictions as well. What you think will um, happen in this fight. And if you give Verhoeven any chances, let us know what you think they are, the chances. Right. Let's get on to the undercard if we haven't got any questions. This loads up. Okay, here we go. Yeah. Well, there's good fights this weekend. We've gone through some of them. So yeah, let us know your thoughts. Um, and there's good fights coming up. I mean, it's quite a busy month, and then June is getting that way as well. So um, we've had the Alan Hrgovic fight and the event this month. But I think Keyshawn looked okay, although he's trying too hard to get him out of there. But his corner were trying to get him to box. I mean, it was pretty much one way. I don't know. Let me know what you think of the um, results, the performance, Big Ham. Um, yeah, Kelvin was a little bit under par, and I didn't see the first one's fight, so the 154 one. Um, I think Keyshawn's performance was good. Albright is quite tough, and that he did rock him, and he tried to get him out of there in the latter round. So yeah, but it was a good weekend boxing. I think a lot of the fights were the main events were one way. Hrgovic versus Allen was just one way, and um, Keyshawn was really one way traffic. I don't know if you give Albright a round. There was a fifth round where he hit him with the right hand, and then there was um, the seventh where he got thrown down. But that's really the two. I still think Keyshawn won that round. And basically, I give every round apart from that because of the 2 point deduction to Keyshawn. So I think yeah, he was quite good. Not quite the statement he wanted to make. Um, but I think that's because Albright was holding on quite a lot. And um, he's a tough guy. He took a lot of punishment. So yeah, let us know your thoughts, and then we can take that question. So yeah, the next weekend's boxing, we've done Usyk and Verhoeven. Then the next fight on the card is Jack Catterall versus Shakram Gyasov at welterweight, 147 pounds. Um, I wouldn't say he's a contender, but he's never been. I don't think he's been knocked down, unless you can tell me otherwise. And I don't think he's been. He's definitely not been knocked out. So I think from that point of view, he's quite tough, and he's a bit awkward and um, So the comment is Albright is trash and a low level when it comes to contenders. Yeah, I don't think he's a contender at that weight, but um, I think it's quite a 50-50 fight. Um, Jack Catterall and Shakram Gyasov. I think Catterall is slight favourite in betting. So, I mean, yeah, if you look at them both, I think it's um, this one's a 50-50 fight, so it could go either way. It's massive favourite. Uh, Maybe amongst British fans, if you haven't seen Gyasov. I think if you've seen Gyasov, it's a little bit more close. Um, because the thing I've got in front of me is it's 2-5 for Jack Catterall, minus 250 to win outright, and it's 9-4 plus 230 for Shakram Gyasov. So okay, maybe. And on the predictions, it's basically 50-50. So yeah, Catterall's the more experienced guy in professional boxing. Obviously, he's had 34 fights, 32 wins, two losses, zero draws. And I think of the two losses, um, the one against um, one of them, you can, contend that you should have won that fight. Um, so let me just bring it up. Check. You mean Hamza Shiraz? Yeah, it should be. Let's see. Let's go through the Catterall fight first. Let's see what we think of there. Then we can do Hamza Shiraz this fight. I thought Hamza Shiraz was second, but he's like was the co-main. But it looks like the Catterall and Gyasov is third as well. Um, so we shall see. Let's do. Catterall's got 32 wins, two losses, zero draws. The two losses were against um, Arnold Barboza Jr., where he was, I think people thought he was going to Arnold Barboza Jr., where he thought he was going to take him out, and Barboza Jr. just did a masterclass in boxing because you thought, Catterall was the boxer guy. And then against Josh Taylor, which was, and then he rematched and beat him. I think the first one was, a bit of controversial scoring as well. So I think it's his two losses. Um, and then he's sort of got back in the groove against Harlem Eubank and Echo Esserman. Uh, yeah, Catterall is well, to put it in a more thing, he's a little bit boring. He boxes from position. You think there's a bit more if you watch some of our older videos when we've gone through fights with him. You think there's a little bit more there in the tank that he can do. Like there's other extra gears that he could go through, but he never seems to go through. So he's always a little bit disappointing. You think, yeah, he has enough of the basic skills to pull off something really, dramatic and, really put on a performance. And he doesn't seem to deliver it, which is the sort of disappointing thing about him. He sort of disappoints you in the level, but he's a really good, basic skills boxer in that skilled boxer. Um, like Barboza, outboxed him, which was really, you didn't expect. So, and Barboza Jr. is a really good boxer. And then we've seen what Tio did to him. So, um, yeah, he's good. He's on the cusp of that, but I'm not sure he's fully world class. But we'll find out. Gyasov is a little bit more less known to us. Let me just keep his thing. but he isn't beaten. Uzbek, and the Uzbeks can be quite. Yeah, I agree. He's world level, but lacking just that. You think it's there, but it's not quite there. It's like it can't get past that gear into the higher gears that like the real, true, world class elite boxers have, where they can go up a bit more. He you know, you think it's there, but it's not, or he doesn't show it. He doesn't display it. So yeah, this is a good test. This is a good fight. Um, So it's a dangerous Uzbek fighter he's up against, and we've seen with Madrimov and we've seen with a few others. There's in the low weights, there's Akhmadaliev and people like that um, who are tough, and there's a few upcoming. There's one on the um, um, I'd say his name, but his name's really long on the Allen and Hrgovic undercard, who looked really you know good. Obviously, he's only had a few fights, but he looked pretty special. Let me just see if I can find his name. If my iPad starts working. So, yeah, I think this is a tough fight. We'll see how good he is. Um, and I think a lot of his reputation is built on the Josh Taylor fights, but I think Josh Taylor wasn't quite um, as good there on that level. Those fights, and you've seen it when he's fought like Teofimo Lopez, etc. That he's come undone. Right, let me just see if I can get this right. There was. Yeah, let me see if I can bring up the result. I'll get his name. Yeah, they're not putting up on here, isn't it? But yeah. So these Uzbek fighters, Eastern European ones, Kazakhs, Uzbeks, etc., can be quite dangerous. So well, it's not East Eurasian, isn't it? Or Eastern or West Asian can be quite tough fighters. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what it is. I mean, Jack Catterall is really good, but there's like you say, there's something that little bit lacking. And Gyasov is, you know, it's a tough fight. So um, yeah, because Gyasov's got a pretty good 55 and 15 in amateur pedigree, which I think is quite similar to a few of these like fighters that come out of there. They have a good pedigree. He's also taller and got a little bit longer reach, so he's a couple of inches taller. Um, I think he's been hurt. I'm not sure if he's been dropped because normally his defense is pretty good. He's quite a defensive fighter. I can't remember. I don't think Catterall has. Um, because he is quite responsible defensively. That's where you get a bit frustrated with Catterall, Jack Catterall, because he doesn't, take a bit more risk. Although he seems to have, he's changed coach, I think, after in the last few fights, so he's been a little bit more aggressive. You want to see him open up a bit more and be a bit more aggressive, but obviously you got to take risks. And he seems to be a bit risk adverse, but I can't recall him being dropped. I think he has dropped a few in the first Josh Taylor fight when he lost it. I think he dropped Josh Taylor, who's pretty tough as well, who was the undisputed champion. Um, but I don't think Catterall's been dropped. Let's see. Unless somebody can tell me different. Yeah, he needs to. You're right. He needs to take more chances. He needs to put a bit more of a show, and then he could be, you know, um, more interesting fight and show if there's different levels if he is really world class. Um, let's just search. Has Gatrol been dropped in a fight? Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, I think he's going to have somebody else who can box in it because Uzbeks usually they can box, so you're going to have to be a bit more. Maybe his style, if he takes it, is a little bit less risky. He will um, suit it more. But this guy's got like 10 knockouts and 17, so he's in a knockout machine. But he has won um, fair few fights. But obviously, Catrol is I would say, a step up in opposition level. So you never know, you know, what's going to happen in that. But yeah, he has to be careful in this fight. I think it's a tough fight. It's unbeaten boxer who's got a good amateur pedigree, so he's going to know how to box as well. Um, but yeah, I would say it's Catrol is the favorite, but it's closer. I think you can't just take the other person for granted. But Catrol has been in with good other boxers. Um, but Barboza did, beat him. So we shall um, see how this guy fares, isn't it? So yeah, let us know your thoughts on who's going to win. And I am going to give it to, let me see, shall I be follow the trend or go for? See, I think Yasov could pull it off. It depends what version of how much Catrol goes for it. I think if Catrol, you know, goes for it, puts the pedal to the metal a little bit, then he could make it interesting. But Yasov's tough. So I favor Catrol on points. But we'll see. Let me just write that down. Catrol points. But yeah, let us know what you think is going to happen, and then we can go on to the next fight, which is, I believe, Hamza Shiraz and Begic, super middleweight fight. See if I actually, let me do the tailored tape for Catrol. Catrol has 32 wins, 2 losses, 0 draws. It's a welterweight fight, 147 pounds, 66.7 kilos. Gyasov is 17 wins, 0 losses, 0 draws. Catrol has 34 fights in total, 14 wins by KO. He's age 32. He's 5'7", 170 centimeters. He's got a 69-inch reach, 175 centimeters. Um, it's at welterweight, as I've said, and he fights out of a southpaw stance. Yasov has 17 fights, 10 wins by KO. He's also age 32. He's 5'9", 176 centimeters, so he's the taller fighter. He's got a 70-inch reach, 177 centimeters, so about an inch advantage in reach as well. And he fights out of an orthodox stance. So yeah, he is a taller and leaner, reachier fighter. But yeah, I'll give it to Catrol on points. But I could see it going the other way as well, um, depending on how Catrol plays the fight. So okay, so yeah, let us know your thoughts and comments on that, and we'll move on to the next one. Hamza Shiraz versus Alam Begic, super middleweight fight. So Shiraz's tailored tape is 22 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw. 23 fights in total, 18 wins by KO. He's age 26. He's 6'3", 191 centimeters tall. He's got a 75-inch reach, 191 centimeters. This is super middleweight, so it's 168 pounds, 76.2 kilogram weight limit, and he fights out of an orthodox stance. Begich has a record of 29 wins, 0 losses, 1 draw, 30 fights in total. 23 wins by KO. He's older, 39. He's 5'11", 180 centimeters. The reach, we don't know, presume something similar. And he fights out of an orthodox stance. So Hamza Shiraz, as he does against most of these, is taller and usually has a longer reach. But Begich is unbeaten as well, so could be a good contest. I mean, the draw for Hamza Shiraz was against Carlos Adames, who's really good and middleweight and world champion. And realistically, Adames probably won that fight, but Hamza Shiraz was injured, I think fairly early on, or carrying an injury into it. So, the performance was less. But yeah. But other than that, against Berlanga, he was the Berlanga destroyer. He's been really good, and I think he's better at the higher up weight. So I think this is a fight to get him through, and then they're looking at um, maybe Canelo or somebody like that. I think for Hamza Shiraz. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on this um, fight. This is for the vacant WBO World Super Middleweight title. So the titles of super middleweight were made vacant after Terence Crawford retired. So yeah, it's a chance to become a world champion. So it's two interesting fighters. Let me just bring them up so I can give you a bit more info about them. Let us know if you know anything about the fighters, what you think. Yeah. Um, Love for Begich hasn't been beaten either, so um, but he hasn't really fought fighters of the level of Hamza Shiraz. So Hamza Shiraz has fought at a higher level with Balanga, with Adames, Austin Williams, um, Tyler Denny. He's had, he's stepped up on opposition levels, but both unbeaten fighters. Um, and Begich does have quite a lot of KOs, but I think the reach and height is going to be too much for him, and then the age as well. I think the youth will be on the side of is on the side of Hamza Shiraz. So yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a tough fight, but I think Hamza Shiraz should get the stoppage. So it's just going to be working how long it takes him to get there. And let me see what the predictions are. Yeah, Shiraz is quite a big favorite. He's 1 to 20 minus 2,000 to win, and 9 to 1 plus 900 for Begich. So it's a massive upset. And predictions is basically 100% to Shiraz um, by KO. So yeah, I think a lot of people are fairly thinking is one way. So I think this would be a huge upset if Begich managed to beat him. Um, Hamza Shiraz should be able to get through this, and then it probably look at unification fights against who can win the other belts. So you got Jaime Munguia, who has one of them. Um, Christian Billy, who's fighting Canelo. That's coming up soon. The WBO is vacant, which is the one being fought for here. So Hamza Shiraz could be that. And then the IBF one is with Osleis Iglesias. So yeah, there's some interesting fights there. And you've got some, you've got Canelo, you've got Iglesias and Billy Martinez, Lester Martinez, Jaime Munguia, who's now, world champion, Pacheco, Resendez. Shiraz is only ranked 10th. And I think a win here will probably make him world champion, will probably push him up that ranking. So yeah, let us know. Do you think he's 10th ranked, or should he be higher up than that? Super middleweight. Um, and then he can definitely get the fight if he gets, world title. And then depending on what Billy and Canelo do, and you've got the winner of that. You got Jaime Munguia. I think they've had some bits and pieces of calling each other. Well, he's. I think they've looked at some of those fights, and Glacius as well. Um, so it'll be interesting. And Lester Martinez, who's the interim WBC champion. I'm not sure if Catterall wins for sure, but yeah, he's a slight favourite. Although somebody was saying he's a big favourite, but yeah. And let us know about this one, the Hamza Shiraz and Begic fight, Alem Begic. And this one, Hamza Shiraz is a big, huge favourite. So, what do I think? I think around 5 stoppage for Shiraz. I'm going to have. So yeah, let us know who you think's going to win, and let us know who you think's going to win out of Catrol and in the Catrol and Gyasov fight, and let us know who's going to win out of this the Shiraz and Begic fight. Um, and any thoughts and questions before I move on to the next fight? While I'm loading it up. Well, we hope Catrol wins, but yeah, you could see both of them are good. We'll see how good Gyasov is, and we can see how good Catrol is. Right. Um, Let me just load up the next one, which is a heavyweight contest. I think Hamza has in one of his fights. I'm trying to recall. Um, being fought with a punch. Um, I don't think Adamas did that, but like, I think he has been caught. Let me just load up. Right, Sanchez. Yeah, let us know. Does anybody know if Hamza Shiraz has been dropped? Yeah, I'm trying to remember which fight it is in, so it'd be good if you can help which one it is. I think he has in one of the fights, but he's been caught by a punch. I mean, he wasn't really hurt, but uh, yeah. But I think you've got to step up in levels, isn't it? So you've got to fight somebody who knows how to do that and has got the capability to get past his reach and his height. So yeah, the right person can snatch his body from him. I mean, Adamas gave him a hard fight, although, like you said, I think he'd injured one of his hands. So he couldn't, like, he was basically fighting one arm. Um, but Adamas gave him, you know, quite a lot of, managed to get through and got a lot of punches through. Um, so yeah, I think once he fights somebody who's really top level, at a high level, then you'll see how good he is. But he's only young, 26, so he's going to get better, or he should get better. And I think he has got better after the Adamas performance as well. Um, but he has got all the tools to be um, to become a world champion and stay there for a while. Um, so I think it's freezing a little bit. Is the stream freezing a little bit? Yeah, I think Adamas beat him as well. But Adamas is still the champion there, and we've seen Adamas is good. So the thing for Adames would have been the fight against Alan Hanuli. So Janibek, it would have been the one worth watching. Unfortunately for Janibek, there was some of the issues with the I think the stream's freezing a little. Oh, was this okay on there? Okay. Um, so I think yeah, that fight would have been the fight for Janibek and Adames. But yeah, Adames should have won that fight. Um, yeah, both of them at all. Hamza and Pacheco would be the fight. So yeah, Hamza's got to get through this fight, and then I think he's got fights. Then there's potentially Canelo, depending on if Canelo, what happens in the Canelo and Billy fight, could be world unification fight. And then yeah, there's other fighters at that weight who are, um, Pacheco is tall and rangy and got fire in his hands, so that would be a good fight. And then there's different styles to test. You got Billy's, relentlessness and youth as well, and power. Iglesias with his boxing skill, and he's got power, so he's a Cuban with power. And Lester Martinez is also a tough Argentinian fighter, so you've got him. Jaime Munguia has got better. Um, so I mean, obviously there's the upset loss against Bruno Saras, and then the loss to Canelo, which it was Canelo at super middleweight at the time was untouchable. So yeah, there's interesting fights there to see what Hamza can do. Um, but I think he has to get through this one, be professional, and he gets through it. Uh, yeah, this really should just be a one. But although it's an unbeaten fighter, but he's 39 and hasn't fought anybody. Hamza Shiraz has fought the better opposition, so you would expect him to. This is to showcase his skills. Um, move along and then become a world title holder, and then you like you said, we've got unifications, other big fights. So there's a lot of interesting fights in that weight class. So yeah, that's why I predicted Shiraz to win by 5 round KO, fifth round KO. So yeah, let us know your thoughts on there, and we'll move on to the next one, the heavyweight fight. This is an interesting fight for me. Frank Sanchez and Richard Torres Jr. Um, only problem with Sanchez, he has sort of, I think he's got an issue with one of his legs, the knees or the legs, which he had against Agit Kabayel. Um, Before that, he's really slick heavyweight boxer, Cuban, boxer, and really good. But he's got the loss to Agit Kabayel, and then Richard Torres Jr. is the upcoming sort of fighter, but relatively small for a heavyweight, but um, his speed and skill. Take it you're asking about your meaning Shiraz. Yeah, maybe. But there's interesting fighter division, isn't it? So the big fights are one because with Shiraz's frame, you could go up in weight. So the bigger fights, a fight against Canelo will make you more money than two or three defenses against lesser names, and world titles and unifications. Plus, I think he's got that poster, the poster boy look. So I think he can earn plenty of money in sponsorships and other things. But yeah, maybe do a few defenses is not a bad idea. Um, but even the defenses can be decent fights. You've got decent names there. The heavyweight. Okay, well I'm going to do that now to tailor the tape. So let's do. So Frank Sanchez versus Richard Torres Jr., which is really this could be one of the better fights on the best fight on the card. Um, so you've got Frank Sanchez, a record of 25 wins, one loss, zero draws, 26 fights in total. He's got 18 wins by KO. He's age 33. He's 6'4", 194 centimeters, 193 centimeters, sorry. He's got a 78-inch reach, 198 centimeters, and he fights out of an orthodox stance. Richard Torres Jr. has a perfect record, 14 wins, zero losses, zero draws, 14 fights in total, 12 wins by KO. He's age 26. He's 6'2", 188 centimeters. He's got a 76-inch reach, 193 centimeters, and he fights out of a southpaw stance. So Torres is like a quick, relentless boxer, and he's got a fair amount of skill, but so has Frank Sanchez. The downside with Frank Sanchez is you don't know what his injury is like, and I think that slowed down his footwork, which is why Caballel, although Caballel is really good, is slowed down. But he has 18 knockouts. His only loss was to Agit Kabayel, who was just relentless. And Sanchez is normally around about 240 pounds, 238 and a bit pounds. So, and Torres Jr. is normally around about the 230, 236 he's been, 223 as well. Like I think he goes a little bit up and down depending on how much speed they need to have. But Torres just have speed and he's, out punch output and he's good. I think he's one of the up and coming, for a US based people, he's the, potential, um, heavyweight contender. Um, so I've seen a few of his earlier fights, though he does look, like he's got something there. And if you've seen the interview with him on Ring, he's like, he's not afraid of any of the fighters. He can do, and I think they've taken a lot of heart from the build from like Usyk and what he's done at heavyweight and other smaller, well, so-called smaller. I'm not sure they're really that small. Um, and a good win against Guido Vianello. Um, and he's slowly gone, built up, better level fighters. But Frank Sanchez is probably the best fighter he's come up against, and Frank Sanchez has had a few um, good fights and was come up unbeaten about apart from the Agit Kabayel one, where I think he did have a knee issue or a leg issue, and Kabayel just relentless and took advantage of it, and also knocked him down twice in the round seven to get him out of there to win by KO. Um, Up until there, he's on a good run. So yeah, this is an interesting fight. This is the experienced boxer against the youthful boxer, but I think they both have quite good amateur pedigrees. Um, yeah, 40-12 for Frank Sanchez, and I think Torres Jr. has like a 52-8, which for is pretty good um, amateur pedigree for heavyweight boxer. I mean, he hasn't got the size, but I think he makes up for that with speed. So his reach and height. But yeah, but you're up against somebody else who also knows how to box. So yeah, this could be potentially be the best fight on the card, and it's a heavyweight fight, so you can get some action. Both of them have got power, although I think it's based on relentless the accumulative power. So 12 out of 14 KOs, and um, Sanchez is more a boxer. He doesn't have. Yeah, this should be a competitive fight. Um, So we'll see what um, happens in this. But I think this could be potentially the better fight. Depending, well, obviously we hope all of them are good. We're going to watch along, but this one I'm quite looking forward to, and looking forward to see Torres Jr. and Frank Sanchez. Yeah, what do you think? Have you seen Richard Torres Jr. box or Frank Sanchez? What are your thoughts in the comments? Um, Let us know. And then which way do you think this is going to go? Let me get you the odds because this should be. So in betting odds, Torres Jr. is slight favourite, 1-4 minus 400 to win outright, and Frank Sanchez is 3-1 plus 300. Um, in terms of predictions, you've got 25% for Sanchez to win, 75% for Torres Jr., 58% KO, 25% KO for Frank Sanchez, and 17% decision for Torres. Um, yeah, yeah. This should be a good contest. I think it's probably a little bit closer than that. But I think that like I said, the downside for Sanchez is he does have that injury, and I don't know how well it's healed or where it is. So against some, and it's a, like it's, I think it impacts his footwork. And when you've got somebody who's as agile and as fast as Torres Jr. is, and as relentless, I think that's going to be a factor. It's basically what Caballel did, but Torres Jr. is potentially even faster than Agit Caballel. May not have quite as much power, but I think he's got the things. So I could see it being, there's the blueprint to beat him is the Agit Caballel blueprint. And I think Torres Jr. could do something similar. Um, so yeah, but I think it could be a close fight. It could be there, but I think Torres Jr. will just wear him out if the injury is still there. Now, if Sanchez is fully fit, then yeah, then this could be really interesting. A close contest, we'll see um, on the night. But yeah, let us know your thoughts, what you think. Have you, if you've seen these guys? But I'm excited to watch this. If you've probably noticed, even more than like the Usyk Verhoeven. I mean, I always love to watch Usyk. I'm a fanboy, so this is what it is. But I'm interested to see Rico Verhoeven because it's just interesting to see somebody because who hasn't been beaten for 14, 15 years, even though they're in a different sport. So it could be the mentality should be interesting. Um, and this one could come down to that. But yeah, interested to see what happens. And I think if Torres Jr. wins this, then you know, he's a contender at heavyweight. He's in that list of the up and coming ones with Moses Atoma and co. Keramwana, Moses Atoma, and other younger contenders, younger potential contenders. So, because Frank Sanchez is a tough fight, even with an injury. But yeah, I think if that injury is still there, which there's still rumors that it is, I think Torres Jr. is um, just going to be too much for him. Is um, his age and youth and his energy, and then the footwork. If Frank Sanchez is hindered by his injury, I think Torres Jr. will just have too much for him. Um, do I think he can KO him, or do I think he's going to go to points? It's tougher to work out. I'm not sure. I'm going to give him a KO. We'll go with that. I think. Let's see how many rounds this fight is before I make the 12 rounds. I think eighth round KO for Sanchez for Torres Jr. Although I could see points as well. Just it could go all the way and see depending on how much pop he's got. I mean, I could see the other way if Sanchez is fully all there and the real Frank Sanchez. But I think the injuries and the age a little bit will catch up with him. And I think Torres Jr. is going to get the result here and then be really in the conversation at heavyweight. I think he's on the edges, the fringes of the conversation. But I think with a victory here, especially if he gets a KO, makes a statement. I think then he's in that, like it did for Agit Caballel. I think then Torres Jr. is in that, and then then he can get those bigger fights. The quality, improve the quality of the opposition, um, and be in the contender list, which would be good. It'd be nice to have a US fighter in the. I think Jared Anderson and him were the two guys. Anderson was a little bit ahead, but obviously he's fallen behind. I think Torres Jr. is a bit more professional. Um, and he's got a style that could work because he's got a speed advantage and movement advantage against a lot of the other bigger lumbering heavyweights, which I think is where Usyk is going to have the advantage against, or well, he has the advantage anyway, but against Verhoeven is he's seen the bigger. I've seen a bit of Verhoeven boxing and fighting, and I think he's just going to be too slow for Usyk. Usyk is too fast. Um, the main bits for Usyk is the age, which can creep up on anybody, but he doesn't look like he's there yet. And then the one punch out of the unseen punch out of nowhere for Verhoeven. Although Usyk's chin is quite good, he's taking punches from Anthony Joshua, Dubois, and Tyson Fury, in two fights each, and still been come out better on all of them. And he gets better in the second fight. against all of them. I think Joshua was the only one who improved from the first fight to the second fight. Fury was way more clear cut for Usyk in the second fight, and was way more emphatic against Dubois. But yeah, this is a good fight. I'm excited to watch. Um, as excited as any of the fights on this. So Frank Sanchez and Torres Jr. potentially, hopefully, will live up to the billing that I've been given it. But yeah, let us know your thoughts. Who do you think will win and what the outcome will be? And if you've got any questions or anything about any of the other fights coming up, let me see what else is there on this undercard. I think that's the fights. So, any questions and any thoughts? Are you looking forward to the event? There's some good boxing. I mean, the weekend after, there's good boxing as well. Um, I've got a Shaki Foster and Raymond Ford coming up. Adam Azim and Claggett. Um, and Dmitry Bivol returns for a warm-up fight against Eifert. Um, Unified light heavyweight title fight. Uh, so next weekend there should be some good fights as well, and the weekend after next weekend, and next weekend obviously we've got this event. So, which fights excite you out of the four fights the most? I think for me, that obviously Usyk is Usyk, but I think the potentially the Frank Sanchez Torres Jr. fight could be the most interesting out of this. Could be a really good contest. Hamza Shiraz should really take care of Begic. Katril and Gyasov could be close as well. Closer, I think, than Katril fans would like. Um, Usyk Verhoeven's just you don't know what you're going to get, isn't it? But I mean, you would expect for boxing and for the level that Usyk is, if he takes it seriously, um, it should be a bit like Anthony Joshua versus Francis Ngannou, and hopefully not Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. So pretty emphatic victory for boxing, and and Usyk's one of the best of all time to do it. So you would expect him to pull that off. Um, yeah, any comments about any of the fights over the weekend and or any of the upcoming fights? Which ones are you most excited about? Which ones did you enjoy the most of this weekend? Um, and any predictions and results that we can discuss? Or are we all good? You missed any comments? Yeah, and what do you think of a potential from the Allen and Hrgovic fight? There's, I think they were pushing in the after the fight for Hrgovic versus Atoma. What do you think of that fight? Um, if Usyk comes through this all good, Usyk Kabayel, does that interest people? What do you think of that fight? Um, what do you think out of the winner of Katrol and Gyasov? If Katrol wins, who should he do next? And for Shiraz as well, what do you think after this? Would you like to see Canelo Shiraz? I think somebody suggested that Shiraz and Pacheco. That would be a hell of a fight. Um, any more? You got any questions on the TikTok? You see the questions on the TikTok? You got any more? Checking the TikTok to see if we've got any questions on there. We're also streaming live on TikTok and YouTube. Um, Okay, well, I think if nobody's got any more questions and points, thank you very much for watching and listening, um, following along on the live stream. Thank you for all the questions and the comments. It's been fantastic to interact with you. We love our fans all everywhere. Like and subscribe the video to the channel. Like, subscribe to the channel. Like the video if you enjoyed the content. Follow us on TikTok at Genuine Fake Boxing. Follow us on Instagram at Genuine Fake Boxing, where we've got news and shorts and things coming up. And we will be looking at expanding out the uh, podcast part and the streaming part. Uh, follow us on YouTube. You can have a look back at some of our videos where we've broken down some of these fighters if you haven't seen them before. We've done some, we've done a few videos on Jack Catterall, Usyk. Obviously, we've done quite a lot of videos. Um, there's Hamza Shiraz. We've done a few and given comments on him. Um, the top Frank Sanchez. We've done the Frank Sanchez and Agit Kabayal one. Um, Torres Jr. I think we've mentioned a few times. I think we mentioned on the stream last time. Um, so yeah, there's some info on there on those. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you in our see you next week. And hopefully it's going to be a great event. The Usyk, Verhoeven, and all the other fights as well. Like I said, Frank Sanchez and Torres Jr. is the one that excites me the most. It should be epic. I think outside in front of the pyramids. It'd be interesting to see how they set up. And yeah, and then we'll discuss the fights the weekend after in that stream as well with I just mentioned before. I think Bivol's come back. There'll be Shaki Foster and Raymond Ford and Adam Azim and Claggett as well. So super lightweight fight. There's a super featherweight world title fight, WBC world title fight, and then you've got Bivol's sort of comeback fight after injury. I think he had surgery after the last fight with Beterbiev, and then it'll be interesting to see how he comes back if he's fully recovered and does what he normally does, and then we can look forward to um, potentially bigger fights with Bivol. The rematch against Beterbiev, complete the trilogy. There's talk of Benavides fighting one or other or both of them, which is really interesting fight. Although I think we want to see Benavides fight Opataya, which I think makes more sense now that he's up at cruiserweight. I think Bivol and Beterbiev is probably the fight there, the trilogy complete closing. And then Benavides can do, after Opataya, he's got the match at either side. Um, which would be interesting. But yeah, let us know the thoughts on that. Who you want to see them fight in the comments, and we shall see you next week. Closing out the stream now. Thank you. Thank you.